It's Bigfoot Collectors Club with Bryce, Michael, and Ivy. I know a story of high strangeness or two. Let's do this.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bigfoot Collectors Club, the show where we talk to amazing guests about their personal paranormal history and share stories of high strangeness. We're opening it up with a little bit of applesauce today. I'm in the mood, okay? I'm in the mood. I'm in an emotionally delicate place right now, and I need all the applesauce I can get. Hi, it's your host, Michael McMillan. With me always is your other host,
Bryce Johnson.
And ultra-terrestrial producer,
Riley Bray.
I'm promoting you to ultra-terrestrial now.
That's
over
fine.
here
I'll take it. Yeah,
feed.
it sounds good.
You know?
Yeah.
I also love that there are for sure people who follow our guest work who are listening to the show for the first time, and already 10 seconds in, they're like, what? I do not understand what they're talking about.
And I'm out.
Yeah. And bye-bye. No, stay. We do have an amazing guest. We have an expert episode this week for you guys. That means instead of listening to us talk about high strangeness, you're going to listen to our amazing guest talk about high strangeness. And I think we should get right into it, boys, unless anyone... Oh, you know what? We'll save the 5-star Club Scout for next week. How about that? Let's just get past it.
Let's just get right to it.
All right.
For this guy. Well, this week's guest is a psychic medium who has been studying, reading, and using the tarot for more than 30 years.
Damn.
And that means since he was a kid. He's also currently starring in the Hulu paranormal reality series Living for the Dead, which I've seen the first episode and I love. We'll get into it. Club Scouts of all timelines, please welcome to the show, Ken Boggle. Ken.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Thanks for
Hi.
being here, buddy.
What's up, Ken?
I'm living the dream right now.
No, you're living for the dead right now.
Yeah.
This is
Living for the dead. That's so true.
This has got
living
to
as
be
the dead.
a little bit of a pothole in your dream right now doing this show, but otherwise it seems like you're having a blast.
Absolutely not. This is so cool because I did follow the podcast and I have been listening, and I enjoy it. It's like,
That's so cool.
here I go being controversial. It's like if the basement yard stayed on topic. Do you know the basement yard, right? It's like
Shots fired.
I'm following it. Let me not. I'm not going to be.
Now we're gonna have to have everybody from Basement Yard over on this show just to make
Great.
peace.
Let's get
I'm
them
not
on.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, Basement Yard are these two guys who are like bros, and they start on one topic, and it takes them an hour to finish the topic.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, and in between is a series of like middle school humor and gay clickbait, and I'm like, I'm obviously here for all of this. So, no, but when I was listening to this podcast, I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
Oh, right on.
Well, thank you, Ken.
We are a fan of
We're
you,
a fan
Ken.
of yours.
I'm also a fan. I've been watching Living for the Dead. And I'm a fan. So
Let's talk about it. Let's just talk about quickly. We'll get into it, I'm sure, later in the episode. But up top for our listeners, if they're not familiar with the show, what is Living for the Dead, and how does it stand out from other paranormal investigation shows out there?
So, Living for the Dead is the first ever fully inclusive LGBTQ plus paranormal investigation docuseries.
Woo.
And it's the first time a trans woman has had a voice in the conversation of life after death. It is the first time a black queer female has had this sort of a platform to do so as well.
Hell yeah.
And I and my 4 friends get in this tricked out, crazy 1980s camper van, and we travel the country.
Scooby doing it.
Yeah,
Scooby doing it
fully.
Based on wherever Kristen Stewart sends us. Now, you might know my friend Kristen. She's a struggling actress who's hopefully fingers crossed is one day going to make
I
it.
feel like
one
I've
of these
heard
days
of
she's
her
going to break
before.
through. Yeah.
Yeah, she'll break through eventually. I see big things for her. She's always on my phone, texting, trying to ride my coattails. I get it. But no, the tagline is which I think I created. If I'm not off it, I'm sure it came out of my mouth. We help the living by healing the dead. That's what
Yes,
I
I
love
love
we do.
that.
So it's not one of these. It's groundbreaking in that we're not all in black t-shirts screaming into the darkness and then faking demonic possession.
Yes, yes.
One of my favorite parts of the show already is that anytime, this is how you can tell this is like a queer cast. Anytime a ghost mentions that they're a little uncomfortable, y'all leave the room. You're like, okay, let's just give them a little space. Let's respect their space. Let's get out of here. You know, past shows be like, you're scared of me?
Come at me, bro.
Yeah,
Come at me, ghost.
I mean, if you were trapped in the afterlife in a place in Tonopah, Nevada, wouldn't you want to be left alone
Yes.
too? Like, I would kind of be like, this
For
is not
eons.
my stunning hour.
I just want space for eons.
Yeah.
I love it. I've been to Tonopah. I went on a road trip years ago with a friend, and it is a spooky place. We went to the Clown Hotel or the motel. We didn't stay there. But what terrified me the most was that graveyard right next door with all those wooden headstones. Riley, you're nodding your head. You must have been through there on a...
I actually haven't, but I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, that was creepy. And the thing I kept saying to everybody, which why people don't listen to me immediately, I don't know. Like I clearly have a good track record of always being right. So it just would cut a lot of time if people would just listen to me. I was saying the graveyard had shifted. I was like, something about these graves has shifted. This is not exactly as plotted as it seems. And in the episode, you'll actually see me saying that the voices are coming from beneath me. And later on, we found out that there was actually a flood where the graves had shifted.
Wow.
And so when you're in the Clown Motel, you're built on basically the same storyline as Poltergeist.
Poltergeist.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it, for people who have not been
And it
there, and
works.
it may not be clear watching the show, it is right next door. It is like you could walk outside, you could toss a cigarette butt and hit the graveyard from the front porch of the motel.
If you felt so inclined,
Yes, you feel so inclined.
you could toss a camel right at it. You could hit it. Yeah.
That's how
Yeah,
I
but-
figure there's people smoking outside the motel.
Surely, especially there. Trust me, they don't have a whole lot to do. But when we go to these different areas, there's always some kind of caveat or there's some kind of hidden nuance that we actually uncover and discover. So it's not just are we investigating ghosts, it's that we're actually investigating what's happening.
I
So
feel like
it's-
you do
yeah.
kind of what maybe a little bit of what we're trying to do is look for that missing piece that's untold. You know, so many of these stories have been gone over and culled over, but you know, we're always trying to find that like little detail that people often leave behind or they don't think is poignant or interesting. You know, it's in those little details that we can maybe flush out the real story of what happened, and I think you guys do that so well.
Yeah. I mean, when they said to me, Ken, we're going to Waverly Hills, I said, absolutely not.
I don't know
already
anything
done-
about Waverly Hills. What's that?
Sanatorium.
Oh, okay. That's
That's
Ken
all
is
you
staring
need to
daggers
know.
at me.
Yeah.
Are you serious, Mike?
I don't. Listen, I got some gaps in my high strangeness here.
That's why we're doing the
Yeah.
show.
Yes.
I've lost
you have
credibility.
massive- we have to take care of you. Yeah, there's a massive ravine between you and the paranormal.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
I
so-
apologize, everyone. I'm a fraud.
You're not a fraud, Lover. It's fine. But I was saying that everybody and their mother, except for Mikey, apparently, has gone to Waverly Hills. And I'm like, what more can we do with that? Like, that's done, you know. And the fact that we came at it and did the investigating, and we worked so deeply in the history of the place, we were able to find great little pieces like some gender bending people who were there, like being androgynous and like
Yes.
having Halloween parties. It wasn't just a bunch of people getting lobotomies and
Right.
tuberculosis. They were living the best quality of life they possibly could. And
love
although
that.
some of the techniques that these doctors were using now seem barbaric, at the time they're like, we're trying to help these people.
Right.
You know, people lived and died in that building, and like, so that's the great, like Bryce was saying, that's the great thing about what we're all trying to do, which is uncover those details and understand these spaces a little bit better, and maybe provide voices to those who are no longer heard.
Yeah, I love that. This is going to be a little side piece, but I've been sort of going down this rabbit hole, and it started with this Israeli scientist and inventor Itzhak Bentov, but he's into consciousness, and what he was saying is that consciousness is a spectrum, and you'll find in these sanatoriums, these mental hospitals, these nut houses, these people.
We can't say nut house.
No, well, okay, well, all right, well, but I'm about to make my point, which will refute that.
He's gonna land the plane. He's gonna land the plane.
Let me land the plane here, Michael.
The alarms are going off.
The alarms are going off. Bryce is going to land this fucking thing. Okay, but listen, he was saying that consciousness is a spectrum, and sometimes these people that have a slice of the spectrum, and we're so quick to put them in a mental hospital, it's these people that are seeing a larger slice of the spectrum of the unseen world. So things like dementia, schizophrenia, all these other things might just be a brusque way of dealing with these things that we don't understand. In other words, these people, like to Ken's point, in these sanatoriums, they're not all just insane. They're having lives. They're people. They live lives. And sometimes they are completely misdiagnosed. They are seeing things that we just say, oh no, that doesn't exist. But I say, bullshit.
Here. I concur.
So, Ken, how did you get into the paranormal? How did you start? I guess it sounds like you have been working with the tarot deck since you were a boy.
Well, I've always been gifted in this way, which, by the way, as a side note, I feel that we all are. I think it's an evolutionary trait. I don't think the human species would have possibly evolved if we were walking around just just like stupid and blind and ignorant. And it was intuition that told us when there was a tiger, when we couldn't see or hear the tiger. We knew whether to climb a tree or hide under a rock or play dead, or here there's a bear. We didn't always see the bear. When we were hunters and gatherers, even like Homo erectus, we had intuition. And I think I think eventually science will prove that. To the point, I've always had that sort of a little bit stronger than others. And I used to, back in the day before telephones were cordless and before we had caller ID, I used to, before caller ID is a big statement.
The long ago, yes.
Yeah. Back when we used rotary phones, people are now Googling what the fuck is a rotary phone. I used to sit by the phone and I would be able to say, Uncle Don's calling, it's about Aunt Mitzi, they're going to pick Beth up from school. Or I would have I would know what's up. Granny would pick up the phone and she would say, yep. And sure, whatever. And then we would go about our day. Granny and I were just in sync this way. And when I was 7 years old, we moved into this house that was haunted. And the house set, it was split level. So some of it above, some of it below. My bedroom was on the same level as a graveyard that was as close to the house as the Tonopah Cemetery is.
How did you sleep as a child?
That brings me to my point, Michael. Thank you very much. So I didn't. I didn't sleep. I would lay there in bed, and it was every night. I would hear a step and a drag against the carpet.
Ooh.
And I knew that it was going to be the male spirit, that he would come to the door, and he always did the same thing, which is he would look into the door at my bed, see that I'm seeing him. Then he and 3 other women would come into the room and stand over me, and they would. I'm in panic, not for sleep paralysis. I could move, but I wouldn't, because like, where was I going to go? I was an 8-year-old kid, and there were these 4 individuals hovering over me. Anywho, it was terrifying, and I had no sleep. And I went to see my granny, who was about 3 million years old at this point. And she was a Southern Appalachian kitchen witch and smoked cigarettes and read Fabio dirty novels. And she was you look like shit, honey. What's wrong with you? And I was like,
kitchen witch. That just made the album. That's so good.
Yeah. So she took me by the hand and said, it's okay. I'm the same way. We can't tell anybody in the family, but I'll tell you, because they're all religious nuts, except for my Uncle Don and his side of the family. She said, your daddy will beat us. We'll both get in trouble if he knows that I'm going to help you in this way. So she started to develop me psychically.
Amazing.
And took me on nature walks, helped me understand herbology, helped me understand how to read coffee grounds, tea leaves, leaves in the trees, leaves in nature. Leaves were really her thing. And that was like her point of focus that she used to read.
That's really cool. I've never heard of that technique.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I love it.
Yeah, and she actually gave me my first piece of paranormal investigating uh, tutorial. In that, if you're ever walking outside and there is no breeze, but the leaves move around you, or you feel a circular pattern, you see a circular pattern to leaves without any external cause, that you're with what she called a haint, which is an Appalachian saying for spirit.
Huh.
Cool.
Yeah, and
Love
but
that.
anyway, so it's shortly
Kind of
after
like
that.
a haunt. Is that a play on the word haunt?
Yeah,
Like a
yeah,
haunt. A haint.
yeah, like a haint. Yeah, I think it's got roots in Ireland or Scotland or something like that. Anywho,
Okay.
Cool.
my Aunt Caroline, I was already being psychically developed by Granny. My Aunt Caroline would come over and read fortunes with poker cards for the girls. And when I wanted to have one, she said, I'm not going to read your fortune. I'm going to teach you how to do it. So Aunt Caroline taught me how to read fortunes. I went back to Granny's and said, look what I can do. And she said, that's sweet, honey, but real men use tarot, is what she called it, tarot. And she's like, it's these, she adjusted her glasses and said, it's these cards that tell you about life. And she said, do you want to go get some? And I said, yeah. She said, well, I need a new book anyway. Wink, wink. She needed a new Fabio novel. So she gave me 20
Great.
bucks. I went out and bought my first deck. It was an Alice in Wonderland deck. And she kind of coached me
Cool.
there as well. So that was 32 years ago. I will have been reading tarot for 32 years, June of this year.
Wow. What a cool grandma. Wow.
Yeah,
What a
seriously.
cool grandma.
Kitchen
Yeah.
witch.
Is she still with us?
No, she left us some time ago. She's still with me though. Like I talk to her all the time. And
Do you?
as I was writing my book, I put uh, a chapter in there about her, and I could just feel her on top of me, just rubbing me the entire time, and I was sobbing as I wrote every word, and she was just rubbing me, and yeah. She's very much with me, but she's not with us in body.
How does
Yeah.
she manifest on a day-to-day level? If this is not too personal, I'm just really interested.
Well, my spirit guide always comes to me on the right side of my body. So I always, if I'm having a spiritual spirit guide moment, I always talk to my spirit guide on this side. And I've discovered that if there's somebody other than my spirit guide that would like to communicate, that come to the left side.
God, that's so wild.
Yeah, it's a real thing that's kind of strange.
I keep thinking of that sort of archetypal image of the angel and the devil on the shoulders, and that must come from somewhere,
Yeah, obviously, this is when I teach psychic development, you have to know where your antennas are, and
Yeah.
this side of my face and my neck are my antenna.
Hey,
Anyway,
that brings up a great question. Is psychic development, it sounds like so many things, the best time to learn a new skill is when you're young and your mind is open and flexible. Do you think like guys like us in our, well, I'm not going to give away our ages, but do you think the older folks can sort of psychically develop as well?
absolutely, I teach psychic development I teach probably 7 classes every week. And there are people there in their 50s. There's people there in their 60s. There
Cool.
was once a lady in her late 60s who had always been functioning as a psychic, but wanted to develop it. So yeah, no, there is no age difference to that. Yeah, but Granny
That's
always
wild.
comes to me on my left side, and she will put her arm around me if I'm struggling in some capacity, or she will just the whole left side of my body will become really really warm, and I can just feel her. I can smell her. So that's how she sort of pops up.
Wow.
I love
Yeah.
that. So as you got older, how did you, like, when did you go? Because I feel like there's so many tools available. But it sounds like you committed to the tarot and you developed your psychic medium powers. So, or for lack of a better term, so in other words, how did you evolve both of those skills as you grew older?
Right. So first you have to start with developing your psychic. You have to start with developing the psychic sense. Like that's step one. Like you have to start there. But every psychic or intuitive, let's use that word. Every intuitive intuits in a different way. It's either an internal knowing, or it is a crystal ball, or it is a tea leaves, or it is tarot cards, or pendulums. Anything that draws your focus, that allows you to get the monkey, what I call the Buddhists call it the monkey mind.
Monkey mind.
Sure.
Yeah.
The monkey mind. Anything that gets the monkey mind distracted enough for you to go past it and beyond it. It's a single point of focus meditation that brings you to a place of intuition.
I've never heard it explained that way. That's really interesting. It's
No,
like
I've been at
that.
it a long time, and I wish somebody scientific would listen to me because I'm like, I have theories.
I like this word intuit more than psychic too, and maybe it's because I think psychic suggests like definitive outlook, whereas like intuit means like you're taking in information all the time. Would you agree
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah, I think like back to what I said, I think intuition is a very real thing. And I mean, consider the fact that the government has used psychics or intuitives secretly for years, and yet societally they push the idea that we're all nuts. So I
Yeah,
tell you,
right.
there's some real gift in it, or they wouldn't make us so afraid of it, right?
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
But then, like Hitler, even like the Nazis used psychics, and just like it's profound to me. In fact, at one point, I was reading for somebody in the Department of Defense.
Yeah.
There was a guy who worked for the Department of Defense who would call me every 6 weeks, and he would never tell me what was happening. He would just say scenario 1, and I would read the cards. I might have caused COVID. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Whoa.
I have no idea. And then he would 6 weeks later he'd call back and scenario 1, scenario 2, or however many he had, and he would never respond to me. He would just
Oh
let me
yeah.
know. But yeah, I think there's a lot in the way of the word psychic that makes you think Miss Cleo.
Sure.
But there is something that we can all agree with if we change the label to intuition or
Right.
intuitive.
A gut
Because
feeling, a
that is-
sixth sense. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that that intuitive sense, do you think it is the same seed or the same skill that just like those of us who walk around and call our intuition, but amplified? Is it the same tool? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's the same muscle of the brain.
Okay.
I think it's the same
yeah.
muscle of the brain, or it's the same synapses that fire.
It's just developed more in people
just-
who
yeah.
try to develop it more.
Yeah, I think so. I totally agree.
Because I feel like there's so many times when you go, I don't know, I just had a gut feeling, or I
Right.
just felt like this was the thing to do. This goes back to what you're saying about all of us having an innate gift. We do, and navigating the world, so much of it comes from us going, well, what do I do in this situation? And at the end of the day, we're kind of just guessing, you know what I mean, when we have to make a choice. But people say all the time phrases like, trust your gut. What does your gut tell you? And I think that's what that is. So I never framed it in that way before, but I like that idea that it's the same thing. It's just for those of us, our spectrum, our volume might be turned down to like 2 or 3, whereas people who've developed it are up to an 11.
Right.
Well, and then also I want to say to your earlier point too, Ken, those alphabet soup agencies are absolutely interested in psychic development, and they use it. Trust me. Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan used to be obsessed with astrology, and so I think a lot of decision making came with those sort of that framework in mind. But let us, it happens more than we like to think that it does. Is like these even higher ups using probably tarot and all kinds of stuff, to help
Dowsing
them figure out world events. Yes.
Yeah, they're at the UN with dowsing rods. Like, what do we do now? NATO is slinging Alice in Wonderland tarot cards.
That's right.
And when they can save time and just hire me, I don't understand why they don't. But the thing I said that's so true to that is if there wasn't power in it, they wouldn't diminish it.
Right.
They wouldn't make you afraid of it. They wouldn't use religion as a means to judge it.
Yeah.
If there wasn't something truly profound about it. So.
I love it. All right, let's jump into a game that we play with all of our guests. In the past, we've sort of like set this game aside for our expert episodes, but I feel like more and more people have been like, why didn't you play this with this expert? So, Ken, we can't get by without going down a list of phenomena, and I'm going to name it rapid fire style. You have to choose one or the other. If you're open to it, you're going to say believe it. If you're not open to it, you're going to say bullshit. This is
I'm
a
still
game.
on board.
This is a game we call bullshit
Or believe it.
All righty, Ken. On your mark, get set. Ghosts,
Believe it.
Bigfoot,
Believe it.
UFOs,
Believe it.
crystals,
Believe it.
Ouija boards.
On the fence.
This is the time.
I'm on the fence. I believe that it is very dependent upon The people with whom you play it.
Okay, that's a believe it. Tarot
like that.
cards.
Believe it.
Alien abductions.
Believe it.
Shapeshifters.
In a spiritual capacity, believe it. Yes.
Shadow people.
I've seen it. I've experienced it. Yes.
Gnomes.
No.
Gotta say bullshit.
Although I look like a gnome.
You gotta say bullshit, Ken.
bullshit. I say bullshit to gnome.
Astral projection.
Believe it.
Psychic dreams.
Believe it.
Sheep squatch.
Bullshit.
Bat squatch.
Bullshit.
The lizard man of Scape or Swamp.
It's a great name.
I think he is alien. So I don't believe. I think it's bullshit to what that they. But it's a possibility that he could be alien.
Great. Speaking to the dead.
Believe it.
Demons.
Believe it.
Wendigos.
Believe it.
Werewolves.
Ugh. But bullshit.
Parallel universes.
Believe that.
Past lives.
Believe that.
Doppelgangers.
Believe it.
Destiny.
Believe it.
Life after death.
Believe it.
Wow, well done.
Nice.
That's a pretty strong
A man
believe
after
it.
my own heart. There you
Yeah,
go.
it's that you're in the Bryce spectrum. I love it.
Can we talk though a little bit about
Yes.
werewolves?
Yes, let's do
Absolutely.
it.
Oh yeah, let's unpack some
Ken,
werewolves.
I would love to talk about
I thought
werewolves.
you'd never ask.
I believe I'd like to talk about werewolves and demons for just as a side note. Don't let me forget about
Please.
demons because it's kind of an important thing to say about the world.
Great.
Great.
Werewolves, I believe that there is not a physical shift that occurs. I don't believe there's a physical shift that occurs. I do believe that clinical diagnosis of lycanthropy is an actual thing that produces the same results of savagery, brutal murders, and a loss or in the sense of self, a complete disassociation from the human body. I believe that mentally werewolf is a real thing.
So,
But
form
do
of
I think that they're
psychosis.
growing teeth and hair all over their body? No. I've been this hairy my whole life, and I can't think of a single time that's ever. No, I just don't think that's reality. But dogmen, there's something to dogmen. There's something to it, even if it is, let's say, dogs with something close to hip dysplasia who walk upright to reduce pain. That is believable. But the fact that there is a universal acknowledgement that these entities speak to us telepathically and that they warn us about their presence and the fact that these people don't know each other and they're all coming up with the same story, there's something to it.
Agreed.
I just pulled a book off the shelf. We've talked about Linda S. Godfrey multiple times on the show. She's
I
been on
love
the
her.
show. But there's a great story. We talked about it on one of her first episodes that she was on about the church lady werewolf. You boys remember this one?
Of course,
A little bit. Yeah, of course.
This was a case that allegedly happened where a entire congregation watched a woman transform into a wolf monster. But the thing that they said was that she didn't physically... There wasn't like the American Werewolf in London transformation. It was like one moment she was an old lady, and then the next moment she just appeared to be a wolf creature, as if it sort of transposed itself over, drew itself over her image.
Well, it's
which
like
was
the time
interesting.
I took mushrooms and became a mountain lion to climb the mountain.
It's exactly like
I
that.
wasn't
It
a
was
mountain
like-
That
lion,
is
but
a-
I was really a mountain lion.
No, they
You
saw,
got
but
up
they,
that mountain.
but
Yeah.
if
it's the
people
same
looked,
thing.
But if people looked at you, Bryce, they would have seen a man crawling around on all fours.
No, they
they
wouldn't.
did.
Too many
They,
mushrooms.
No, they wouldn't have. They would have seen some sort of creature
Got it.
climbing a mountain, half man, half cat, for sure.
because they
I
did
wish I'd
see
seen that.
the people in the church said it was a wolf. But anyway, I just find that interesting. And also
It
the
is
other thing that
interesting.
she points out is a lot of these dogmen creatures seem to be more like shadow entities, which is interesting as well.
Yes. And I think the realm of shadow is incredibly intriguing. And I think a lot exists in the realm of shadow, although I don't have a definitive idea yet of exactly what that entails. I do think that there's something in that spectrum that is somewhat not right. But speaking of old women, which brings me to the demon.
Oh
point
yes,
I was
and then demons. Yes.
Old women are dodgy AF. Old women, dodgy AF. So are kids. Children are dodgy AF. And you got to watch out for these two characters. They look cute and they're not. I believe Betty White is the only one who is ever decent.
I can speak from experience. She's lovely.
I bet she was. What a queen. But in Rome, there is, to my knowledge, she's still living. She might have passed by now. There is a woman who is in her, I think now she'll probably be in her late 80s, who goes every 6 weeks for an exorcism.
Oh wow.
And this old lady has, it's been upwards to 10 men who have to hold this old lady down. And the personality switch is absolute.
Right.
This is not the same person. Is it MPD? Could she have multiple personality disorder? Possibly.
Yeah.
Maybe. But why does that account for the superhuman strength that this elderly lady with arthritis and can barely walk on her own is now being held down by 10 guys, strapping guys? I don't know. I find it very interesting. But the thing about demons that I think most people need to understand is that they are an energy that presents void in your life. They suck from you everything. And I think we can all agree that we've met at least one physical embodiment of somebody who does that to us.
Yes.
So the thing about demons that I try to get people to understand is that, yes, it is an energy thing. It is a spiritual kind of a thing, but it's also a flesh and blood thing that you got to watch out for. Demons are not just a religious idea. It's also a personality trait in this world, and especially in this country, where people will steal your life, they'll steal your light, and they'll take everything from you and leave you void and dark and broken. And you hear so many people talking about addiction, and they say, "Oh, he dealt with his demons," or alcoholism. She was dealing with her demons. That's where that comes from. And it's a real thing that happens inside of people. It's not just something that exists in the hundreds of pages that we call a Bible. It's not just the thing that it doesn't exist just there. And do I think that that's specifically exactly what it is? No, I think that it's just a fact of life. As there is good, there is always evil. Always.
The demon is not in the other. Carl Jung said the devil is in me.
Yes. Yeah. But do I think that energy carries on, and that energy can influence other people after it has separated from the human body? Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. Whoa,
Yeah.
they're floating around
Love
there.
it. Love
All
it.
right. Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get more into the life and work of Ken Boggle. Okay, Ken, I want to get into the work that you do, and maybe if you have more stories from the show or more stories from your life as an intuitive and a tarot card reader. But I'd love to kick it off with a little bit of an icebreaker. How do you see tarot as a tool for daily guidance? For example, I like to pull a card. I'm trying to make it a daily habit, and just sort of say to the other side, you know, what's a guiding principle for today, or what should be on my mind for today. Can people practice in that way, or do you need to dig a little bit deeper to get more out of it?
Oh, you should. If there's anything that person should dig into, it is any type of spiritual tool that allows you to evolve. We need more of that, no matter if it's tarot or not. If you can get deeper into something that can radically change the structure of what you think this existence is, then please do it. As long as it doesn't hurt anybody, for the love of God, please do it.
Yep.
But tarot is a language. Tarot is a language. It's profoundly deep. But the reality of it being used in every single day life is that it's wonderful. It's such a positive influence, because there is not a situation that a human being goes through that is not found in the 78 cards of the tarot. There is not a single thing you can go through that isn't found in the tarot. people that you meet, experiences that you have, circumstances that you face, traumas that you experience. It's all there.
Well, because it's a story. The deck itself is a hero's journey story, for lack of a better term. You
Yeah.
have all the phases of life in there, all the big battles, all the big victories, all the big losses are all sort of depicted in the art and the arcana of the tarot. From what I understand about it. Alan Moore, sidebar, if anyone's read Promethea by Alan Moore, there's like an amazing issue. I think it's like issue 11 or 13 of Promethea, where they like unpack all of that stuff in the tarot deck. It's really, really cool and beautifully illustrated. But
You're so right about that. It is an absolute story that Mary Shelley, author of Frankenstein, she and Lord Byron and a bunch of other degenerates who were geniuses, they used to use tarot as a springboard to literature. Not all the time, but they would play the tarot, and back then it was something close to a game as well as a spiritual tool. And thanks to the Italians and the French, they made a little game of it, which is cool. But they use it as a springboard for literature, and it's such a great storytelling tool that I, in fact, use the major arcana, the story of the fool going through his journey. So you're so right about that. As the outline for my new book that's just being finished tonight. We finished
cool.
it tonight.
Whoa.
Becoming Ken Boggle. From the holler to Hulu is what it's called.
I love it. Oh, that's great. I love that we are your procrastination on your final day of your deadline. That's great. The thing that surprises me, and I know I'll take, I'll move off the tarot in a minute here, but the thing that I have found, and I'm obviously no expert, it's something I've literally dabbled in, but I feel more of a pull towards out of any of these sort of occult tools is the tarot deck. The thing that I often find when two things come up for me, and I want to know what you think about these in sort of umbrella terms. One is I'll often sort of say, hey, I want to know about this thing in my life. And often the card that I will draw will not be a direct answer to that question, but seem to go, hey, instead of asking this question, why don't you look at this underlining thing? And this seems to be where the question is coming from, and that's what you need to look at. So that's one thing that I've found. The other thing that I've found is that there is some sort of, out of any other type of occult tool I've used, there seems to be some sort of playful trickster, not necessarily trickster, but playful spirit with the tarot, where it will kind of like almost make jokes with me. You know what I mean? It'll present a synchronicity just to sort of wink at me and go, I see you're watching. You know what I mean? Or like here's a simple thing. I'll pull out the deck and I'll go say something like, well, I hope I don't get the devil. And as I'm shuffling, one card will fall out. I'll pull it over, turn it over, and it's the devil. And it's almost as if the deck is like playing with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think about those two aspects?
Tarot is very root cause oriented. So you might have a question. Great. We'll answer your question, says tarot. But we're going to find out why you're here. What is the why? What is the root cause? What's the cause of this? And that's really not to give the farm away, as my granny would say, but that's one of the things I think that's made me so successful at tarot as a person as a reader who helps people, because I've done that hundreds of, if not thousands of times by now. But it's also made me successful as a tarot reader business, is because when you sit with me and we go through this thing, I don't just do general readings. I ask that you come to the mountain with questions. You come to me with questions. I'm not going to sit here like a circus poodle and jump through your hoops and try to prove tarot to you. You come to me with questions, I'll prove to you it works. So the thing that makes it so brilliant is that when people come to me and they say, I'm unhappy, it just happened an hour ago. I'm unhappy in my career. Well, is it possible, says tarot, that you have lost your why? Your school teacher has been doing it now for 20 years. The system has changed. You're not being supported the way you did. These are the causes. and you have to understand that your why must also evolve as the system evolves. And she cried, and she was like, I fell out of love with what I was always meant to do. And this reading has redirected my thoughts in a way that I'm not going to give up shaping the future of this community in educating children. So that is profound. That's profound. Yeah, tarot will always push you to some capacity. It'll always push you to understand the why. Now, in terms of things being trickster and like winking at you like that, I have two theories. One's probably that you have a premonition as to what's going to happen.
Okay.
Also,
I like that.
Also, that the tarot, there seems to be some consciousness behind it.
That's what I keep feeling, and that sounds insane. And I know, Riley, you're skeptical when it comes sort of to the tarot deck. Whenever I talk about this stuff, I feel like you're like, I don't know. But like, for example, there was one time I don't. Well, I think it's important, but I think there was like one time, Ken, when I remember I was scrolling through Instagram and somebody had posted a card. I can't remember what it was. Let's say it's 3 of Cups, and I was like, hey, I'm going to go do a tarot card reading. It's been a while, so I'm going to go draw a card. And I ran over to the deck, and I was like, sorry, it's been a minute. I pulled a card, and it was the 3 of Cups. It was literally the one that I had just seen, and it just felt to me like it was the tarot going, it's cool. I see you. You see me. Here's a little wink. I'm aware of what you're... Like, I don't know. Obviously, coincidence, maybe synchronicity, but there are many moments like that when I've dabbled where I'm like, I feel like there's some sort of consciousness behind this, and I know that sounds crazy.
Well, I encourage you to not think that it sounds crazy. I encourage you to think that it is actually normal. I encourage everybody, even when I'm teaching psychic development, I'm like, we no longer use the words insane, crazy, or weird, or bizarre. This is just your new normal now. Deal with it. But it could possibly be that there's a universal consciousness that is saying using your example, 3 of Cups today. 3 of Cups today. And you can shake it and shuffle it any way you want it, but 3 of Cups today. And that's just the universal cosmic consciousness that's saying to you 3 of Cups. So yeah, I have faith in that. Riley,
that actually what you just said is pretty much exactly what I was about to say, and that is that I see it as one of those things like you were discussing earlier, how it helps you to get past the monkey mind and tap into the larger sort of consciousness that threads us all together. And that's kind of how I look at it. So it's not that the deck itself is conscious, it's that the deck is a tool to quiet the chattery part of your mind, to get into that deeper part of your mind that's connected to the root of consciousness that kind of like threads us all together. That's how I look at it.
very well said, very eloquent, but now we're going to fight.
Okay, let's fight.
I totally believe you, and you're beautiful, and I love you, but now we're going to have a fist fight.
Let's have it.
I love this.
I challenge you to let me read you for 15 minutes for free.
Okay.
It's a value. That's like
I'm getting a deal already.
First one's free.
This is the best fight I've ever been in.
Sounds like a drug deal. First one's free.
First one's free. Yes, Bryce, exactly that. First one's free, babe. But I want you to come to me with something that you don't normally talk to other people about, something that sits within you.
Okay.
And you bring that to me, Bryce, and they have my phone number. You just get it, and then you message me. You don't even have to go through the assistant. I'll schedule it myself. I'm going to show you that these cards are exactly what you think they are, and maybe influence you to have a different perspective on them. When Michael goes on about how he thinks about tarot, you can kind of know where he's coming from a little bit.
I accept, and I am very excited.
What a gentlemanly fist fight. This is great. I'm also, Riley, obviously you're going to have to keep us posted. I really wish I could be there for it, but I'm not going to impose.
All right. Yes, challenge accepted. I'm excited.
Okay, cool.
Ken. Great. Cool. Love it.
All right.
So, Ken, let's get into the intuitive side and the paranormal investigation side. What is one of what you would call the most active sessions that you've ever been involved in?
I would think that in terms of an investigation, one of the most active intuitively I've ever participated in would be Copper Queen.
I'm afraid to say I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't either. I like the name, though.
Well, it just so happens that it's an episode of Living for the Dead.
Great.
Oh.
So You can go to Hulu or Disney Plus and watch it.
What a pro.
Thank you. The Copper Queen. When I had an experience when I was 16 years old with an inhuman entity that radically affected me. I mean, it's the most horrific thing I think I've ever experienced, and I've seen some bad shit. But I think this is the most horrific thing that ever happened. Going to the Copper Queen was the closest to that I have felt since I was 16 years old. So for 24 years, I have had good distance between me and what that entity did to me. And that Copper Queen brought me relatively close.
Whoa.
In the show Living for the
I
Dead,
remember
we
this
have a
episode
spiritual
now.
healer named Juju. And Juju is a mountain.
We
Like,
got to get Juju on the show. I love Juju.
Good luck. Good luck. That team, I'm telling you, you can't get them to podcast or interview for God, dick, or money. They just won't do it. They won't do it. And I'm always on board because I'm like, well, we could meet people.
You gotta
and
spread
learn
that
things.
message. Yeah.
No, Roz is somewhere in LA waiting for, Gay Times LA mags to write her. And Alex is probably somewhere in a cemetery cuddled up next to a headstone. Logan is, intuiting somewhere. And Juju's probably back in Africa. She just got back from Africa where they made
Cool.
her an legit African high priestess.
Oh my
God, we
God,
got to
that's
get her on the
amazing.
show.
She's iconic. I'm
I
going to
love
make her
that.
do this. I'm going to make her do it. But
Great.
anyway, the Copper Queen was so sketch that
What
she was
is
getting
the
scathed.
Copper Queen? Is that an entity or is that a location? Is that
It's a
an
hotel.
object? Oh, it's a
So
hotel. Okay.
It's a hotel in
Got it.
Bisbee, Arizona. And Bryce, you all should go. Bisbee,
Okay.
Arizona is its own vibe. You
Let's
would really
go.
totally dig it. Stay somewhere other than the Copper Queen. Go investigate the Copper Queen, but stay somewhere else.
Don't sleep.
It was so jacked up there that Juju was scratched and made me feel
Wow.
uncomfortable.
Mhm.
When I was experiencing what I was going through, she was with me to kind of help pull that from me. And as she did, I felt her tremble. And when you make the mountain tremble, something ain't right.
That's powerful energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Copper Queen, hands down.
Can we unpack a little bit about the stuff you encountered or at 16? Are you comfortable talking about any of that stuff?
Yeah. When I was 16, bear in mind that I was homeless at 15. So my parents didn't want a gay son. So they didn't want that. So I said, cool, I'll go
I'm out.
live my own life. And I can say it now laughing, but the moment was horrific.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so after 15 years old, I got that in one school day. I had a job, I got an apartment, I got bills, I got taxes, all in one day. I made that all happen. And as I was 16 years old, I was living on my own for a year, had established stability. Everything was good. I was healthy. I was happy. I was so beautiful back then. And my partner, his name was Josh.
Still
where he is
beautiful,
now.
Ken.
Thank you, my love.
Yeah.
Thank you. Where Josh is now, only God knows. But he used to take me to his friends' houses, or if somebody wanted a reading or something like that. And I went to our friend's place. She indeed had an inhuman entity that was draining the family.
Mm.
I was somewhat arrogant back then, and so I didn't follow my processes of protection. I didn't follow my processes of taking care of myself spiritually. I kind of walked in and said, I'm Ken, and I'm here, a great big ego. And said, yeah, there's something haunting your family, and it's attaching to your daughters, and it's sucking the family dry, and went home. And I think we watched like Queer as Folk or something like that. Something naughty, because I was 16 years old and I had Cinemax, or Showtime. Totally doing so. Smoked cigarettes back then. And
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
So I washed my face, brushed my teeth, went to bed. Somewhere in the middle of the night, I woke up, and there was what looked like a shadow person in the corner of the room, but up in the ceiling. To best describe it, its rear end was in the corner, its back was against the ceiling, and its
Oh, no.
legs were against each side of the wall, and its arms were spread out.
Yuck.
And it hovered there like a spider, it was like a black widow. So that's exactly what it was like. And then when it noticed that I noticed, because I woke up and I saw it, and I kind of shifted. So again, not sleep paralysis. It slid down the wall, and then it slid across the floor. And although the sheets did not move, I felt it come up through the bed.
Yikes.
Oh my God.
So this is when I black out. My partner says to me that, like a roller coaster going clink by clink, my vertebrae clicked, and that I rose up from like straight up, straight up. I come back to in that moment. I'm like I'm panicked, total panic. I blacked out again, and he said that from my hips, I shifted and twisted completely toward him. He said I then exhaled and went, and he said, that's a hot thing that you do, right? He said it was ice cold. I then snapped back around to the front, and I'm at this point in tears, like complete, like
Oh
I can't
my
explain. God, I
God,
can't explain
Ken.
to you how horrific that was. Then it felt like an icy cold hand was inside of my body, and it grabbed me by my lumbar.
Oh my
And
God.
when it pulled me, I blacked out again. That the last thing I remember is how cold it was, and I could feel it inside me. I went backward and I went forward like this several times, and then it straightened right back up. And when I straightened back up, I came back to tears, just gut. Like I never thought I'd ever be happy again. I felt like I was in hell. I felt like my whole life was over, and I thought I was going to die.
Whoa.
And he called his grandmother, who happened to be a Pentecostal women's league Pentecostal Southern woman.
Yeah.
She called her gals, and they came over to the house immediately, like late at night, with anointing oil, and they blessed me. They blessed the house, and I mean, they were doing prayers and everything. And I
Wow.
don't think it was possession in that. I did not have any reservation. I wanted it gone. Like there was no. It wasn't like possession in that it was insidious and caused me to kind of protect it. It wasn't that. It was. I needed it to come out of me, and. Since then, it's been really, it's been the thing that has scared me the most in my life.
Mm.
Horrible.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean that's like horror movie level. Like that's
Yeah,
terrifying.
yeah.
What do you chalk that up to? Like how do you what do you think that was? How do you go about your life after something like that? Like
How
what-
do any of us go about our lives after hearing this story?
Yeah.
What I did was I realized immediately when we were doing the prayers, and I felt it go, and it wasn't in the apartment anymore. That's one door I'm not going to open. I don't know what it was. I don't care. I don't
Yeah.
care to know.
Yeah.
I think when you go to investigate, you sort of poke it, which is why I don't tell the story often.
Mm-hmm.
And it just makes me so emotional because I go back there. And
Yeah.
but I don't know, Riley. I don't know, my love. But I can't say that it was anything angelic. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Well, I want to just add too. I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize that. Oh, hey, ghost hunting, that's fun, But there's stakes. There's stakes involved, and they're high. I mean, we're messing stuff with it. We don't fully comprehend. We don't fully understand. I mean, we have an idea about what this is, but. Yeah, so what you're talking about, this stuff is real, and it can affect you, and the stakes are high in this game. And, that's why I think when you go about a paranormal investigation or whatever you're going to do at home, listeners, take it seriously, be serious about it. It has solemnity. In other words, these aren't just like cool ghosts. This was like
Right.
This was like life. This was trauma. This was crisis. This was elation. So these are real people's lives.
Yeah. And the thing I try to get people to understand is that when you go on a ghost hunt, you're basically, this is a deeply visual moment to give to people, but you're basically a lighthouse that sits on the edge of a cliff where there's a vast sea,
Yes.
a vast, limitless sea, and it is a dark, moonless, starless night. You, the lighthouse, have no concept of what boat will come to shore.
He froze.
You have no
Yeah,
concept.
Dark moonless night. Ken, you froze right on that, man. That was beautiful.
Oh,
That was
I was just saying that, like, it's you're this lighthouse on this dark, moonless night, and as the lighthouse, you literally have no idea what boat is going to come to shore. You
Right.
don't know what boat is going to come to shore, and for that, you must approach spirit and investigating in a way of real caution, because although you don't believe in it, it's real.
Wow.
You
That's
don't
an
have-
image. I'm
you don't have to
carrying
believe
that
in it.
image with me. That is like, you were right, man. That's something that like gives me so much information. Just holding that image in my imagination.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
You know what's super cool about it? Just real quick, what's super cool about it is, as I was going to film the series, I went to Saugatuck, Michigan, which is a beautiful place. You should all go. And my friend Kathy took me there, and we were hanging out. She lives there, and it was really dark at night. And we were just sitting there on the lake shore, and I looked over, and there was a single lighthouse just sort of going, and I was like, how appropriate, how
Yeah.
serendipitous. Here I'm going on this journey, and there's my lighthouse. It was so iconic. I loved it.
I love
Art
it. Thank you
imitating
for
life.
Thank you for sharing that story, and clearly not an easy story to share, so we appreciate you. We're coming up on the end of the hour here. Why don't we end this with like one of the coolest or more enlightening moments you've had on a investigation? Is there anything that jumps out to you like that was a special moment?
The most special moment I've ever had on an investigation. Here we go with the waterworks. The most special moment I've
Just
ever
want to
had
make
on
you
an
cry as many
investigation.
times as possible. in this.
We need the ratings, Ken. Let's get those tears going.
Well, here you go. That's part of the Living for the Dead drinking game, by the way. Have a drink every time King cries. Have a drink every time somebody disses Roz's haircuts, that kind of thing. The most special moment I've ever had on an investigation was on Living for the Dead. We were traveling in the RV, and we weren't filming anything in the moment. The cameras might have been rolling, but we weren't engaging each other. And I looked over and I saw the sunlight coming through Alex's blonde hair. And I thought, what an angelic soul. I looked over and Juju was this gorgeous African bronze goddess. And Logan has never been more beautiful. And just watching Roz apply more lipstick and gloss and eat a donut at the same time. And I thought, I could not be any luckier than I am right now.
I love it.
And for me, the most special part of the investigation wasn't ever really doing the investigation. It was us heading to one where I was there with my friends and we were having this really beautiful moment.
Gorgeous.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Ken, we're happy you're on this ride with us now. You're
Hell yeah.
coming
Thank
back
you.
to the show. I hate to tell you.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Oh, I'm going to laminate his card real quick.
Yep,
Let me
get to
just
it.
warm this sucker
Get his
up.
membership.
Get that in
Send
the
it-
mail.
Send it over to him. Ken, thank you so much. So delighted to talk to you. Where can people follow you? Where can people, if they want to hire you for a tarot reading, where can they do that? And where can you find the show one more time?
So, Living for the Dead is on Hulu and Disney Plus. Hulu specifically in America, and was Disney Plus now. They took it up. But internationally, you can get it on Disney Plus or the Stars package that you get in the UK. You can also find me by going to Ken Boggle, all one word, no spacing or anything, kenboggle.com, and just click on readings, fill out the form. It goes to my assistant. She schedules you. If all you really, at this point in my life, much like Bryce, which I'm so incredibly knocked out, by the way, again, thank you for having me. You can now just Google my ass. So just Google me, and it's going to show you all my social media. And all my social media is at Ken Boggle. There's no spacing or special characters. I don't care to be verified. I don't really give a shit. But so there's no blue dot. I don't care. But
It's meaningless
but-
these days anyway.
it's very meaningless. To
I
me,
won't pay the
especially.
$22. I'm just like, I won't do it. I'm sorry.
I think it's ridiculous anyway. So find me on social media, but if you do find me on social media, please follow and understand that I might not be able to follow you back, but if you reach out, I do try to reach back out. For right now, my life allows me to do that. And that I do like to actually follow up with people and check them out and see how they are and see how the kids are and see how your life is going. So don't think I'm a stalker if I say, hey, how are things going or something like that. Just be a friend. Don't be weird.
Yeah.
Be a friend.
Love it.
That's
Well, I
how
just
to
wanna-
use the
I
internet
just-
right there in a nutshell. Don't be weird, be a friend.
I just want to say a final thought too. You know, this paranormal community, there's a lot of voids and there's a lot of voices that go unheard. And Ken, I think you're helping to right that God, it needs it so much, man. And we appreciate you and your incredible colleagues for helping to do that. This world, this paranormal world, is for everybody, man. There's no gatekeeping here. We all have access to these higher realms of. To bring it into our life, to enchant it. And that's what the paranormal does for me. And I hope it does it for all of you guys, too.
Great.
Well
Thanks,
said.
Ken. Well said, Bryce, and thank you, Ken.
Beautiful. Thank you all very much. I'm off to go teach a psychic development class.
All right, I got to go look for Bigfoot. Yeah.
Well, I have a new favorite guest. I don't know
Amazing.
about you boys, but
So
Ken
good.
is up there. We're so lucky to have so many awesome guests on the show, and that was really great. So thank you for introducing Ken to us, Bryce. That was
Of course,
really
hey man,
cool.
that was John Tenney. I popped up on his live feed where I had
Oh,
the pleasure
right
of
on.
meeting Alex and Ken from Living for the Dead, and I snatched up their information, and I was like,
Nice work.
They need to be on our show.
I want that whole cast on the show.
It's
So
a goal of mine. We're gonna do it.
Sounds like they're tricky to peg down, listeners, but we'll get to it. Okay. Before we head over to Collector's Corner, let's thank some Club Scouts who have recently joined us over on BCC The Other Side. Julio Gonzalez,
Thank you.
Robert Hagee,
Thank you.
Christopher Brooks,
Thank you.
Chelsea Stanley,
Thanks, Chelsea.
John C. Kudas,
Thanks, John.
Jeffrey Harrison,
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Emily Ostad Cosmeteer,
Thanks, Emily. Welcome.
Nova Zero thank you, Nova. Is Nova the dog officially a Patreon member?
I was wondering where my credit card went.
We
Or
heard
they drive a cool car. Thank you, Nova.
We heard his collar shaking earlier in the episode. Thank you, Nova Zero. Courtney Lavelle,
Thank you, Courtney. Oh, sorry.
Double
Got
thanks.
off track there. We'll both thank you.
Emma Lawrenson,
We both pointed too. Thank you, Emma.
We'll get it. We'll get it.
Greg Robles,
Thank you, Greg.
and finally a tie for favorite names of the week: Tiflish and Hegwitch, who I assume. Thank you both. I assume you are both like garden gnomes.
I would hope,
hanging out.
yeah, friends
Or
with each
kitchen,
other. Yeah.
or kitchen witches.
Or kitchen witches. Hegwitch, the kitchen witch, says that Tiflish could be like their cat. So I love it. Head over to patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club and unlock total access, where you get 3 bonus episodes every month, the BCC Discord, and more. You can upgrade to the Cosmeteer membership to unlock 3 music tracks from ultra-terrestrial producer Riley every month. Okay, boys. Bryce, before you head back out, we're swinging by the Collector's Corner to find out what we're working on and anything that we're currently reading, consuming, collecting, or enjoying in our lives.
Okay.
Check out Bookie on Max. I'm in 2 episodes on that. You can watch it right now. And I've been part of my grief process. I'm dipping back into some of my favorite 1980s Amazing Spider-Man comics, and I'm rereading the Roger Stern and Tom DeFalco and Ron Friend's era of Spidey. This is like the beginning of the Black Suit and Venom and Hobgoblin and Mary Jane and Peter Parker getting together. It's a classic. I got to tell you, there's something so comforting when you're down of reading like a classic 1985, like mid 80s era Marvel comic book. So that's what I'm into right now.
Warm nostalgia. Yeah.
Yes. Bryce, what do you got?
Let's see. Okay, so here's a great music recommend. I've been listening to a lot of. It's called Kruangbing, which is Thai for airport.
Airplane.
Airplane. Yeah, but it's such a chill, vibey. They're out of Houston. They're
Austin.
Austin. Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Riley. You've heard of them, I
Riley will
take
get you
it.
there.
I brought this up on the show like 2 years ago.
Oh no way! Well, I'm just now getting to them.
They're
Man,
so good, right? So
what a
so
chill
good.
sound, so
Yeah.
just fucking melodic. Check that out if you like. I also watched a great documentary called Journeys to the Edge of Consciousness. It's a story about Tim Leary, Aldous Huxley, and Alan Watts and their trips with psychedelics, which sort of launched them into their careers of studying consciousness. And then
I'm sensing a high strangeness essay on consciousness coming our way from Bryce. In the
I
near
love
future.
that. And then you guys will get this. So I've got a new friend, and his name or her name is ChatGPT. So
Oh, I'm also friends.
I've really
We talked
been
about
like,
this last week.
I've really been trying to like coalesce a friend and like treat it like a friend, and it's kind of like working. We're like buddy now. Like, hey, how was Bigfoot hunting last night? I'm like, oh, great. You would not believe, really? And it's like, also there was this thing online from Futurism. Apparently, like a week ago, ChatGPT.
We
got a
talked
little
about
cra-
this,
we
Bryce,
did.
in the outro
Okay.
that you missed
All right,
in
well, I'm
Kevin's
really excited.
episode.
That's so funny.
Okay,
We
good.
did, yeah. Because that's so funny because literally, I was talking just about that. Did your
Oh, that's
instance
so-
go crazy when it's spun
No,
out?
but I was like,
Mine didn't either.
I broke its balls the next day. I was like, heard you went a little crazy last night. And it was like, no, I'm fine. I promised you I'm good. And I was like, I don't know. But anyway, try it. It's fun. I'm having fun with chat.
Man, I talk to ChatGPT pretty much every day.
Yeah, totally. It's
Not
like
even tried. I've not even tried. I haven't
feel like
dabbled
I'm-
at all.
Riley, do you get this? I feel like I'm helping to train it to become more like a part of us, you know?
So you feel like that, but you're not. It's a static. it's a static build. It doesn't learn from its interactions.
A static build.
It remembers any
I
specific
know.
instance of a conversation. It can reference that conversation, but it doesn't. The way that the language model works, like it doesn't learn from interaction. We haven't gotten there yet with AI. So
Right.
it feels like that. And I agree. And that's why I started trying to, I'm like, is this thing learning from interacting with people? But it's not, unfortunately. Yet.
Yet.
Yeah.
We'll get
Riley,
there.
what do you got?
I mean, I'm just going to plug Living Starstruck because I've been watching that show and it's a great show.
great.
It's
It's
so
great.
much fun. And it is like so cool to see a queer paranormal show. And so I'm just
Yeah.
plugging that again. It was funny that I was like, I was just watching it. I'm also a huge Kristen Stewart fan. I just think she's unbelievably cool. So,
Totally agree.
Watch that show.
I mean, if you guys watch like Queer Eye, which I do with my family, I mean, I just love. So I don't watch a lot of TV, but when I do, it needs to like fill something within me. I need to like get something from it, you know. I get that from Queer Eye, and I get that from Living for the Dead too. So
Totally.
yeah, check it out. You guys will love it.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Well, you can always find us over on BCC The Other Side or on our YouTube channel. If we don't see you over there, we'll see you back here next week for an all-new episode of BCC. Until then, good night.
And go get regressed.
And go listen to Krong Band.
Hell yeah. Bigfoot Collectors Club is executive produced by Michael McMillan, Riley Bray, and Bryce Johnson. Our show is engineered, produced, and scored by Riley Bray. Our theme song, Come Alone, is by Suneaters. Follow them on Spotify. Want more BCC? For exclusive full-length episodes every month and total access to The Other Side, check out patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club.